Hi everyone, it's Kelly with Women for One, and I am so honored today to be having an authentic conversation with Gary Zukav. I have followed Gary Zukav as millions of other people around the world has followed his teachings for years and years, and I am just so happy to have you sit and listen to his teachings, his words of wisdom, and really for us to have a very authentic conversation today. So welcome, Gary. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you. What a lovely introduction.
I'm really, really happy to have you here. And I'm really excited to be sitting next to the book that I read many years ago that I will be reading again and again and learning each time I read. So thank you for all of your service to the world.
You're very welcome. It's a joy.
So I think what I want to start with is our community is really committed to defining authenticity for each person that has stepped into working with us. And I wanted to ask you how you would define authentic power and the work that you've been doing around that.
Well, there's only one way to be authentic. Only love is authentic. Everything else is not accessing our fullest potential, our liveliness, our creativity, our vitality, our co-creativity. So to be authentic requires love. That's pretty basic, but how do you do it?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Well, I believe that everyone does it the same way. Or if they're going to become loving, does it the same way. They find within themselves every part of their personality that's not loving. They get to know it real well. They get to know it in terms of the sensations, physical sensations that it creates in their bodies when it comes. They get to know it in terms of the thought, and it hurt, they're painful. They get to know it because something like jealousy, that's so painful. Anger, vindictiveness, that hurts. They get to know it in terms of the thoughts that they're thinking, and they're always critical thoughts. They're judgmental of other people or yourself, and they always have the same intention. It's to change the world so that they'll feel better about themselves, so that they'll feel more valuable. For example, anger, jealousy, resentment, feeling superior, inferior, entitled, needing to please, every kind of obsession or compulsion or addiction, all of those come from fear. So I've discovered for me that if I want to live a loving life, I need to know intimately all of the parts of my personality that don't want to do that.
Okay.
So that I can recognize them when they come up in me and not act on them. But what I'm suggesting is that if you want to create authentic power, the best thing that you can do, not in a judgmental way, but if you want to bring out your fullest potential, the best way you can do that is while you're feeling the power and the magnetism of a frightened part of your personality, is to reach in that moment for the healthiest part of your personality that you can access and act on that instead. You may feel like shouting or withdrawing. You can use your intuition. You can access the most healthy part of your personality and act from there instead. In that moment, that's creating authentic power.
So each moment is a choice. Once you notice the awareness, then you make a choice
Yes.
to act from a place of love.
That's it.
That
That's
sounds
the
a
whole
lot
story.
easier said than done, though. I mean, it feels. When you were talking, I had an example of everything that came up in my just yesterday, all the places that I acted from fear instead of love. So how do we take the steps towards that, doing that every day of our lives?
Well, the first step is to become aware of it, and that's to develop emotional awareness. And my spiritual partner, Linda Francis, and I, as you know, co-authored a book called The Heart of the Soul. So if you're interested in that, or if any of your listeners are, or any of the young women or young men, or old women or old men who are listening, emotional awareness is very important. You can't go very far. You can't go anywhere on the spiritual road without it, because your emotions are the force field of your soul.
Ooh, your emotions are the force field of your soul.
That's right. And so when you're feeling a frightened part of your personality, or look at it this way, currents of energy are always running through us.
Right.
Some of them are low frequency. They hurt. They're the parts of we experience them as the parts of our personalities that I mentioned.
Okay.
Anger, resentment, jealousy. Others are higher frequency, and we experience them as gratitude, appreciation, patience, caring, contentment, all of life. They feel wonderful. They're all-inclusive. Their thoughts are thoughts of appreciation or gratitude. And their intention is always an intention of the soul. It could be harmony or cooperation or sharing or reverence for life. So creating authentic power, creating an authentic life, requires choosing the loving parts of your personality when the frightened parts of your personality are active. That's how you challenge them.
Right.
And it also requires cultivating the loving parts when you recognize them. In other words, not thinking, well, I'm just feeling good and accepting today. To realize this is a loving part of my personality. Make that a benchmark. Say, I'm going to call that up again. Right. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to recognize it when it comes, and I'm going to use it.
And seeing sometimes the opportunity when you feel that fear coming up to go over here or wherever you go and make a choice to go into love.
That's it exactly, Kelly. That's it. And your life continually gives you those opportunities.
Oh, yes.
Because you can't control the emotions that you feel that are stimulated by people and circumstances, but you can always choose to either react, which means act the way you did in the past, or to respond.
Okay. React.
Or respond. And that's the key. Because when you become aware, you put yourself in a position that is very powerful. You you make a little space between the impulse and the action. In other words, an angry impulse comes up, and instead of
contracting
or exploding, you can inject consciousness. You can choose. You can choose consciously. If you don't choose consciously, you'll choose unconsciously, and you'll act on your anger or your jealousy, and you'll create painful consequences. So creating authentic power is not an event. It's a process. And your life is that ongoing opportunity to transform it from an unconscious, robotic flow of events and reactions into a conscious awareness of what circumstances create in you, not create, but stimulate, activate in you, and using each of those circumstances to the best of your ability to choose love. In other words, creating authentic power is learning to distinguish within yourself the difference between love and fear, and then choosing love no matter what.
Conscious choice to choose love no matter what.
That's right.
And why do you think it's so timely right now in our world? And people, it feels like there's a lot of people moving into that place of wanting to understand. They name it different things, but wanting to understand how to choose love and move into authentic power.
That goes to the heart of really why we're talking. Because there is a transformation in humankind that is happening now. It's not approaching. It's not going to happen. It's happening now. And it's so big, it can't really be described. Our evolution is changing. We are evolving in a different way now. And hundreds of millions of people are beginning to sense more than they could in the past, even 20 years ago. In other words, our awareness is expanding beyond the limitations of the five senses. And so we're beginning to sense ourselves as more than bodies and minds, more than enzymes and muscles. we're beginning to sense our life. We're beginning to sense ourselves as immortal souls. You might say we have a dual awareness. One awareness is of our personalities. Like here's Kelly and Gary, and we're sitting on the chairs, and we're talking. But who is really talking? It depends upon your awareness.
Right.
You might say, well, I'm talking with Gary Zukav. He's a white, male, grandfather, American, educated, and lives in the United States. Yes, yes, yes to all of that. But that's not I. That's this suit, earth suit,
Right.
that I'm wearing. And I might say I'm speaking with Kelly, and she's a white mother. She lives in the United States too. She talks to people around the world and shares her love and her heart. Yes, the love and the heart part, that's more than the personality.
Right.
That's more than the earth suit. That comes from the soul. So as you consciously align yourself with your soul, the energy of your soul begins to move through you into the earth school, like the breath of a musician through a flute. And you become one who longs for harmony and cooperation and sharing and reverence for life. And you become one who strives for humbleness and clarity and forgiveness and love. And as you do, your life transforms. You attract to you different people. You create different consequences. And you contribute consciously not only to the maturation of your own personality, you also contribute to the evolution of your soul with each choice of intention, with each choice of fear, or each choice of love. It's the intention that makes the difference, not the action, not the deeds, the intention. You also choose what you will contribute to the collective consciousness, to the evolution of humanity. And that is what our evolution now requires. We're becoming more aware. We're becoming multisensory. But that isn't going to make us authentically powerful. It's making us more aware.
It's not going to make us more authentically powerful.
No.
Can you speak a little bit about that? Okay, we're making us more aware. So, because it's the intention and choice around our awareness, okay, it's not going to make us more authentically powerful.
No.
Can you speak a little bit about that? Okay, we're making us more aware. So, because it's the intention and choice around our awareness.
That's what creates authentic power.
Right. Okay.
That's it exactly. Authentic power requires choice. It requires your conscious choice. It requires you to be aware of when you're angry, when you're frightened. Maybe you're coming to visit me, but we haven't met before.
Right.
But you've seen me on television, or you've read some things that I've written, like this book, and you say to yourself, I'm interviewing Gary Zukav.
Oh, I already went through that.
Oh, good. Well, I hope you're gone.
And I watched it all weekend. I was like, you're going to be okay.
Yes.
But I noticed it, the awareness.
That is noticing a frightened part of your personality. Right. And frightened parts of your personality, they're so fascinating and so destructive. They will not put me or another person on a pedestal. They'll put their own image of that person on the pedestal.
So there's never any real contact if you keep that
None.
that way.
None.
Because you're not really you're seeing it through your lens of
Exactly.
fear.
Every feeling of superiority, every feeling of inferiority is the experience of fear. And equality is the experience of love. Equality is the soul-to-soul connection. Personalities are never equal. Never. You can do things I could never even think of. You can have a child. I can't. You have a grace and a charm. I can do, let me put it this way. Suppose I want to learn Russian or Arabic. I go to someone who speaks Arabic.
Right.
Are we equal? Not as Arabic speakers.
Right.
She is far superior to me. So there's an inequality. Personalities are like that. Some are old, some are young, some are strong, some are weak, some are very quick mentally, some can dance, some can draw.
Right. Personalities.
That's right. Earth suits. Earth suits. And there's nothing about an earth suit that does not serve your spiritual development. So never think that, oh, I'm never going to grow spiritually because I'm jealous all the time or I'm insecure. Of course you're insecure. Every human is insecure. That's the central human experience. It's the experience of feeling inadequate. It's the experience of wanting to belong and not belonging. It's the experience of wanting to love and feeling that you can't. It's wanting to be loved and feeling that you're unlovable. It's feeling that you're intrinsically defective or flawed, and that if anyone could see you the way you see yourself,
Right.
they wouldn't want to be with you. Welcome to the club.
Welcome to Earth.
Welcome to the Earth School.
School.
Incarnation, this dramatic act of spiritual responsibility, means that you have a personality. To live in the Earth School and to have a personality are the same thing. So don't think that your personality is your obstacle to your spiritual growth, or that any of the frightened parts of it are. They are your avenues.
And your opportunities
Yes.
to grow and learn.
They provide you with opportunities.
So when we're talking about authentic power, and a lot of people that are part of the Women for One community are from the Middle East, where women are very oppressed in many different ways, politically repressed, are unequal with men in their culture. What tools would you suggest for them to use to be able to step into their authentic power? Because I have had incredible conversations with very empowered and articulate young women that are getting their PhDs in feminism, several of them in Cairo, that are actually more empowered than a lot of women I meet that are my age in the US, because it's almost like they've had that opportunity to push against the oppression a little and look at that fear even in a different way. So I just wanted to see if you had some thoughts on that.
This is a very good question. It's not pushing back against an external oppressor. And I'm very aware, not as much as a young woman living in Cairo, but aware in my own way of that environment. It's not that environment that needs pushing back against. And don't misunderstand me. There will be a time and a way when your very presence will transform that energy. But it's the fear in you. That's what needs to be met. And that's what all of these women have met.
Right.
And are meeting. And I'm very humbled by them. But each of us in the Earth School have fears. These are the parts of our personalities that we were given prior to our incarnation in order to make the choices through which we can heal our souls. So, in an atmosphere of oppression, such as you're describing, one reaction would be to become a victim. Another reaction would be to become enraged. Another would be to withdraw emotionally. All of these are attempts to manipulate or control the external world. but it's only by your own self-mastery that you will put yourself in a position to live and to model and to share the energy and the appropriate activities and actions that will contribute to the world what you want to contribute and not more of the same. The world in which we're living is a world that was built by a species that was limited in its perception to the five senses. It evolved by surviving. It's a world of fear. To change it requires contributing something else.
I've never heard anybody say that in that way. It went into me when you said that. Right?
Yeah.
It really does.
If you make anyone else a villain, you make yourself a victim, or you deepen your own sense of victimhood, which is to say powerlessness. As you begin to lash out in anger or resentment, you lose power.
And that's what you were talking about, and you're pulling the root of violence with the Newtown
Yes.
shootings. And I was so moved by your words. And everywhere I went, I would share them. Because everywhere I went, people were debating whether it was the school's fault, whether it was the gun control, whether it was these crazy people, and the judgment. And your words were so beautiful around that, about taking self-responsibility and looking inside at those pieces of yourself that are violent. I'd love for you to speak on that a little bit.
Anytime someone does violence to someone else, whether it is someone in the Middle East, and that's just not male on female violence.
Absolutely.
It is because they are hurting. They are in pain. It's not possible to hurt someone unless you're hurting yourself. So, let me give you a story. I have a Sioux brother, an adopted brother. His name's Phil Lane Jr. And he's been involved in a beautiful project for some time, about 20 years or longer. And it's called the Fourth Way.
Okay.
And it is for Native American youth and Native American adults. And this is Indian country is often a very difficult place to live because of poverty, sexual abuse, alcoholism. At the same time, there are still some people that carry a culture, a live culture with them, the language, the values. And they are the elders, not what are called sleeping elders, but the ones who are awake.
Okay.
Awake to their culture, awake to what's valuable to give to the world. And so the 4 ways are these. He is saying to all the young Indian people, here's 4 ways you can look at the oppression that we've experienced from the dominant race, from the dominant culture, from white people. Resistance, resignation, rebellion, or the 4th way.
The 4th way.
The 4th way is to share the wisdom of the elders with the world and to live it, because the time has come. The time of all Aboriginal prophecy. In my Sioux brothers' culture, Lakota, it's called the Great Spring. The Hopi have a prophecy. All Aboriginal cultures that I know speak of a time, of a great change. There's been a lot of talk about the Mayan time. It's not a time of violence, is evident at 2012. The Mayans felt that interpretation was nonsensical and non-Mayan. It did mean that a new time has come. The time is now. The time is now to live from the heart. Not the sentimental heart, the one that wants to take care of others so that you'll feel better about yourself by taking care of someone. Not the one who wants to contribute because contributing makes you feel superior.
Right.
but because your life now calls you in this direction. It calls you in those moments when you're angry, when you're jealous, when you don't want to reach for a loving part of your personality. When that happens, I'll give you a tool you can use.
Okay, that would be great.
This was a tool that was given to me by a kahuna, because Linda and I have a deep affinity with Hawaiian culture. And this kahuna was explaining different aspects of Hawaiian culture. And then he said, in our culture, whenever we meet someone, we find something to bless about that person. And then he said, so now I'm going to give you an emergency blessing.
To use.
To use when you meet somebody and you can't find one thing about that person to bless. Say to yourself, his exhalation feeds the plants.
That's so great. That's so great.
It is.
But what about the self-judgment?
Think about the decision that goes in to remembering the emergency blessing and using it when you're angry, when you're with someone who's cruel or brutal, when you're with an oppressor. That's where the power comes, not from the cuteness of the words, but from the strength of stopping in that moment and not lashing out with your fist, with your words,
or with your anything.
with
your
anything,
intention.
with your, yes, exactly.
But my question around that is, what about the self-judgment? Because I find, I hear myself judging myself just even more than when I can't find anything wrong with the other people.
Well, you can still use the emergency blessing.
You breathe. You feed them.
And as you do that, you can recognize that the part of you that's judging yourself is also a frightened part of your personality, and treat it as you would any other. First of all, put your attention in your body. For example, in your throat area, or your chest, or your solar plexus. Feel for physical sensations, and if they're painful, you know it's a frightened part of your personality. Low frequency energy currents that are running through you that will create painful consequences again if you act on them again, but will give you an opportunity to make a decision from which you can draw power rather than lose power. So become emotionally aware. Look at your thoughts. If they're critical or judgmental, then you know that you're in a frightened part of your personality, and they will be as critical and judgmental as you as they are to someone else.
Right. It's so true.
They're not coming from who you are. They are not who you are. They are the experiences of a part of your personality. And once you begin to recognize these different parts of your personality, then you're free to start to explore them. And as you explore them, to become familiar with them. And as you become familiar with them, to recognize them as they are activated within you by external circumstances. And then you don't waste your time trying to change what activated them. That's the pursuit of external power.
Right, wasting your time always focusing on the outside and
Exactly.
oppression or control or any of those.
That's right. This doesn't mean that you become a doormat to the world.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you don't act. Two of my heroes, I always live in my heart, are Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. Now, tell me, how much skill did they have in recognizing fear in themselves and not acting on it? How much?
It's beautiful.
How much was required by Martin in Selma and any place he went? I saw a video, just a short one of him, taken from in a jail cell, and he was being asked questions about what had happened, about white people, about oppression. He would not make anyone wrong. Now, did he have fear? Yes, of course. He's was a human. Did he act on it? Not when I saw him.
He made a choice not to act on it and to
Yes,
choose love.
yes. When you're around someone who seems as though they're not experiencing what you experience, like maybe a Zen master, and you think, well, if he felt what I felt, he wouldn't be so calm. He wouldn't be so Zen mastery. But maybe this person feels even more acutely the kind of things that you're feeling, but has more ability to choose responsibly.
So it really, I mean, I just keep hearing you over and over, self-responsibility, choice, and choosing love.
That's right. That's right. And using your life to experiment with that. You know, I want to say to all of the people who listen to you and listen to your wonderful programs, don't take anything that I say as so. Don't take anything that anyone says as so just because they say it. Don't take anything that anyone writes as so just because it's written. So when I share with you about authentic power, about emotional awareness, about responsible choice, we haven't talked about intuition. There are so many things we could talk about, but see if anything I say resonates with you. And if it does, try it out. If it doesn't resonate with you, let it go.
I love that because I was taught over the years. I went and followed some gurus, and I took everything in and felt like I had to follow everything when I was in my early 20s. And then I went and saw this person, and she told me all these things with a friend, and the friends, I came off very angry after, like, how could she say all of those things? I don't believe half of what she said. And she goes, yeah, but the other half was great. Why don't you just ignore the other half? It just half of it felt really good, Kelly. You can have the discernment to make your own choices. It was a beautiful learning.
It was. And also you might look at the parts that judged this person.
Right, I was afraid. It was fear.
Well, what I'm thinking is this. Whenever you resonate with something, experiment with it. That's what I'd suggest.
Okay.
Never repress an emotion, never deny an emotion.
Okay.
Experience it. And then if you resonate with something, experiment. Now, a resonance can sometimes be a pushing away. Sometimes you recognize something and you know, that's right. But then suddenly, if that's right, what's that going to do to my life? What's that going to do to my relationship with my children, with my family, with my friends? What's that going to do with my parents? And so what happens is there's a strong push away. Pay attention when that happens.
The push-aways as well, big time.
The reactions, yes. So
they're indicators as well of.
That's right. William James was a psychologist who wrote in the last part of he wrote in the 1890s. He was brilliant. He was a contemporary of Freud, and I always liked his writings. There's some warmth, some quality of friend there. And he talked about looking at your life in such a way that you can use everything that comes to you. And then he said, you are like a sailor, and no wind can blow that does not fill your sails.
That's nice. That's beautiful.
Yes, thank you, William. And now, all of the people that are watching us can try that. I suggest Authentic Power. Here, read this book, The Seat of the Soul, if you're not familiar with it. It has Authentic Power, and Spiritual Partnership is another book. So the more you know about it, the more you can try it out. And what I suggest is this. Try it out. Bend it. Twist it. Jump up and down on it. See if you can break it. Use your life. Experiment with it. See what's actually true in it. What I'm suggesting is true, is this. When you act in fear, you're in pain, you're creating destructive consequences, and you're the one that's going to experience them. When you're creating with love, you are in bliss, you are in joy, you're creating constructive consequences, and you're the one that's going to experience them.
That's beautiful. And you have the Seed of Soul Institute where you do online courses and retreats as well about all of these subjects you've spoken about.
We do. Linda and I are doing something new now. We're using digital tools in the internet because we do have one event that we still give a year. It's a 5-day retreat. And it's wonderful. But people have to pay to be away from work for 5 days. They have to fly there. They have to pay for a room. They have to pay for food. They have to pay the Institute so the Institute can put it on. And not everyone can do that. So we've created the Authentic Power Learning Community. So people can learn and experiment and interact globally and inexpensively. So for example, twice a month, Linda and I will give a talk, something like this. Live streaming video.
Wow.
The real deal. Then we go on a conference call where people can ask us real-time questions about what we just talked about. And it's a great video conference call service we have. People can raise their hands. We can see who wants to ask a question. And then at the end, we break everyone into small groups of 3 or 4 people. And then we give them an exercise just as though they're at an event. And then we leave the lines open when Linda and I leave, and they stay with their group for as long as they want.
Oh, wow.
And they talk to people from around the world. The people in Egypt can talk to the people in Alabama, and the people in France can talk to the people in Mexico, and the people in Vancouver can talk to the people in Dallas.
And isn't that beautiful, the interconnectedness of everyone now?
Yes.
It's fascinating.
And we're using the internet even more. We created an online spiritual partnership community. And we have interviews. Maybe we'll interview you, or maybe we'll use this and we'll put it on the Authentic Power Learning Community.
That's wonderful.
So people can interact. They can always have a way to interact with each other, to interact with Linda and me. It's very inexpensive and it's ongoing.
Is it ongoing once you join? Ongoing?
It's ongoing. It's a monthly subscription, so you can stay with it as long as you want. Leave it, come back, experiment.
That's wonderful.
Just like life. Except you can't leave life. You cannot leave life. Life can't be left. It can't be destroyed. It can't be harmed. That's your immortal soul. You know, when someone dies in a Hindu tradition and they put them on a funeral pyre and they talk about the soul and they say a sword can't cut it. Flames can't burn it. They've been saying this for thousands of years. It comes from the Vedas. Well, now, for the first time in human history, the entire human species is becoming aware in a way that allows it to experience these things for itself. We've had to take it on faith. There have always been people who've been multisensory. Our religions are named after them. The Buddhists and the Hindus talk about reincarnation. Christians talk about love and going to heaven, but how many really spend their lives loving? How many Buddhists really live their lives as though consciousness and responsibility does not end at death?
Right.
Now, hundreds of millions of us are becoming multisensory, and I suspect that almost everyone who listens to your shows is in that group.
I would agree.
And they're not superior, we're not superior. We are simply on the ground floor of an entirely new human species. And within a few generations, everyone will be multisensory. But how many will be authentically powerful? That depends on each person. I cannot say. I can only say that it's my intention that I will create authentic power to the best of my ability, while I have a personality to use to do it.
That's great.
And that I'll share as much in a non-dogmatic, open, joyful way that I can about it. I can't think of anything more joyful to talk about than the fact that we are alive on this earth, that we are becoming aware of ourselves as powerful and creative, compassionate and loving spirits, and that we are finding joy in growing spiritually together. That spiritual partnership between equals for the purpose of spiritual growth is now something that attracts us as we become interested in becoming aware of ourselves, our emotions, and choosing in the best, most loving way that we can. What could be more incredible than that?
I don't know anything, actually.
I don't either. We're transforming from a species that was limited to 5 senses, that evolved by surviving,
Right.
and that survived by pursuing external power, by manipulating and by controlling. And we are becoming a multi-sensory species, evolving by growing spiritually, and growing spiritually by creating authentic power.
Well, and I love the difference between just becoming multisensory and the authentic power. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
And I think that is beautiful to differentiate that, because I think a lot of people keep those equal, and it really is about choice and intention.
It's about choice and intention. Experiment with it. You know, there's a beautiful quote by the poet, and I think her name is Macrina Whitaker. And I'm going to paraphrase. It's pretty much this. Oh God, let me know the truth about myself, no matter how beautiful it is.
It's amazing how you just go straight into your heart. It makes me long for that place.
Then do it. All that stands between you and anyone and the life that you want to live are matters of choice.
That is a great piece of wisdom right there. Thank you.
And may I recommend our website?
Absolutely.
seatsofthesoul.com.
Seatsofthesoul.com.
It's named after this book. And you can learn about the Authentic Power Learning Community. There's free tools. There's videos.
Thank you so much for everything. It was so great to talk to you about all this. I really appreciate
It's a
you
joy,
sitting
Kelly.
down. Thank you. And I wish you the best, and you and Linda both with the Seat of the Soul. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's so good to meet you. I'm so honored.
Yes.